I'm going to digitize this feather diagram. I'm going to use a full-size diagram to trace it out. Using Logic Trace, the first thing I'm going to do here is select the 4 points, which defines the 4 corners of the diagram. You can see here where I'm touching the 4 corners of the outer part of the diagram. Out of the 4 options, I'm going to select the Trace command to start tracing out the feather. Also, as I work along and trace different parts, I save my work frequently. I like to have a backup copy all the time. I also use a red pencil to mark up where I start my tracing from. It also gives me an indication of what parts are done. When you're tracing a large diagram with a lot of parts, it's easy to get confused and trace something twice. And when you trace something twice, you'll have a double vector, which has to be removed. I'll be using the trace command for most of this tracing because the parts are all irregular. My idea here is to trace out this disintegrating feather with the birds coming out of it and use a black walnut live edge. Run this through the CO2 laser pretty deep and then paint the parts that were engraved black. It's a good spot to mention that you can configure this program to suit yourself. For instance, I've configured the program to trace in black and 0.5 in width. I like it to look like a black thread. When you save your work, the program saves 2 copies. I call that second copy the working copy. The beauty of that is that if you were to take a break from tracing, say pick it up the next day, you just load up that working copy and carry on right from where you left off. I find Logic Trace easy to use and it's fast. And it has the ability to be saved in different formats like DXF, PolyDXF, SVG, or PDF. Very flexible. One unique feature that's worth mentioning is the ability of the program to extend the control window. And that's the left side window there. And you can extend that to an iPad or to a cell phone, which would enable you to have your button control right beside where you're tracing be very quick. So those 4 commands, the trace, line, arc, and curve fit, would be very quick to touch. Also, you'll see that I saved my work again. Getting finished up here with the tracing, so I'll save that final DXF file. I'm going to load that file into the laser software and run it through the simulator. By running it through the simulator, it'll give me an idea how long it's going to take, and it looks like about a 38-minute engrave. I mentioned earlier I want a deep engrave, and what I meant by that is that I'm going to be engraving this at about 350 dpi. I want it down a bit so I can paint those parts that are engraved. When I say down a bit, I want the engrave to be deep, like about a 1/16 of an inch. After the engraving, then I program the laser for a low power cut. I call that the scribe cut. It just outlines the whole feather, makes it stand out. Once I'm finished engraving, I'll remove the piece from the laser, and then I'm going to give it a spray coat of clear lacquer. I want to seal it, and then I'll paint those black parts where it's been engraved with a black paint. You need to seal the wood before you paint, or the paint will run through the wood. After the paint application, then you sand the whole live edge piece right down to the black walnut, and give it 3 coats of finished lacquer.